SMART. So the S stands for scan the text and text features. So I'm going to give you about 1 minute. We are not reading, okay? We are just scanning the text. Can anybody tell me what scanning means? Yes?
You're just looking through it for things that stand out, like maybe a word with a number or underlined or something.
You're awesome, Shane. Yes. So you are just looking at the text. You're looking to find text features, and you're looking to find any information that the author may give you, okay? You're looking at the structure. For example, does this look like a nonfiction text? No. Does this look like a fiction text?
No.
No. Okay, because the structure is written differently, correct?
Yes.
So I'm going to give you about 1 minute, and I want you to identify any text features you see, and I want you to number the lines, because what type of reading is this? Poetry. And I want you to also break down the stanzas, okay? And while you're doing this, I'm going to be modeling it under the docu camera, okay? All right, go ahead and start. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so I labeled this TF. Can anybody tell me why I labeled it TF? Yes, does Mariah. Think about what are we scanning for here? Yes, Haley.
It stands for text features.
It stands for text features. Now, what type of text feature is this? What type of text feature? What do you think, Nathan? What does this look like to you? Think about the text features that you learned in possibly 2nd or 3rd grade. What does this look like to you? Okay, so you have time to process. What do you think, Miguel? Maybe a picture. What type of picture? Because picture is very general. We want to be a little bit more specific. A photograph. Good. Okay. So we're going to label this photo, or if you want to, label it photograph. Okay. We're just going to shorten it to be a little bit more specific. Okay. Is there any other text features on here? In here? What do you think?
In the picture?
Well, not in the picture. In this poem.
Oh.
Is there another? A what?
Stanzas.
Okay, so we already labeled that. We numbered that. What do you think, Ola?
So, like, it's kind of like a rhyming poem.
Well, we don't know yet because we haven't dove in and read it.
Oh, I know.
Remember, we're just looking at text features. Text features are those added pieces of information the author shares with you to kind of give you a hint of what the story is about or what type of story it is, okay? What do you think?
It's kind of like about a forest.
So we're talking about text features here. So we're looking at photographs, we have stanzas, we have lines. There's one more text feature in here. One more, yes.
Keyword.
Keyword, how do I know it's a keyword?
It's underlined.
It's underlined. So let's all underline, let's highlight, sorry. The word, what? What's the word called?
Delight.
Delight, good. Okay, delight. Okay? So now that we did the S in SMART, which was scan and look for text features, now what we're going to do is we're going to make predictions and infer. Before we start reading, we always got to think about, what could the story possibly be about? This is called activating your prior knowledge, or activating your schema, as some people call it, okay? What does that mean by activating your schema or activating your prior knowledge? Your teachers use that lingo. What do they mean by that? Yes.
Like to read the thing and then read it again.
Well, we're not reading yet. We haven't even dove in. All we're doing is trying to activate our prior knowledge and infer and predict about this story. But what does activate your prior knowledge mean? Because we have to understand, that we can't just dive in when we're reading. We have to actually examine the text, get familiar with it. Yes? You're making predictions and inferences. By what? Activating your knowledge. And what prior knowledge is everything that you have in your brain, all your memories, all the books that you've read. Do all of us have the same prior knowledge? No. We all have different experience in life, right? But let's look at our title. A colorful winter day. Do we all know what winter is?
Yes.
Give me some words for winter. Just shout them out to me.
Cold. Snow.
Snow. White.
Leaves fall off.
Leaves. Well, that's more of autumn, but what? How do the plants look during the winter? They look dead, right? Like they're bare, right? Okay. What else? What else do you associate with winter? Yes.
Hibernation.
Hibernation.
Christmas.
Christmas for some of us. Ice. Frozen. Okay. So
Frozen lake.
that's what we need to do before we start reading. We need to scan the text for text features, which is our S, and M, make predictions and infer on what this story could be about. Since we're familiar with winter, what can we think that this poem is probably going to be about? What do you think, sir, next to Autumn?
About like winter.
Winter and cold, okay? Give me more details. Give me more pizzazz when you're in your response. Yes.
A cold day.
A cold day. Maybe this poet, right? Because we don't call poetry writers authors. We call them poets, right? They can be authors, but the correct terminology is poets. Okay. What else? Yes.
Maybe somebody's gonna be exploring winter.
Maybe someone's going to be exploring on a winter day or exploring the topic of winter. Good. Okay. What do you think that's from?
Experiencing winter.
Experiencing winter. Good. And one more. Yes.
Maybe someone might get lost on the trail.
Maybe someone might get lost on a trail and might need help, right? Those are all good predictions and inferences. And remember, when we're predicting and when inferring, we're making an educated guess of what could happen next or what is true based on our text evidence, okay? All right, so now that we did S and we did M, now we're gonna do A. And A stands for actively read for a purpose, okay? I understand, ladies and gentlemen, that everything that we read is not the most interesting, but there's always a purpose, okay? Whether it's you actually want to read this, whether you're reading this for a research project, maybe because your teacher told you, maybe because your parents or grandparents told you, but there's always a purpose to why you read. Does that make sense? Okay. So now what I want you to do is I'm going to give you about 3 minutes, and I want you to just read. You are not stopping and jotting. You are not circling keywords. You are not doing anything but reading. You understand?
Yes.
So pencils down, highlighters down. All I want you to do is read. All right? Okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Go ahead. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So now that we actively read, okay, we should be able to comprehend 4 different literacy skills. Those of you that worked with me before, can anyone tell me what we need to put next to our title? What are those 4 literacy skills that I have y'all identify next to your title? Yes? APV. Okay, so right next to your title, I want you to draw 4 lines out. Okay, 4 lines like that. Okay? And like one of your peers said, APV. APV stands for what? Tell me loud.
Author's point of view.
Author's point of view. Okay? What's another skill that you need to identify after you read once? Yes. AP. What does AP stand for?
Author's purpose.
Author's purpose, which is the reason why an author writes a text. Okay? Now these 2 might be a little tricky, okay? Who had me in the 3rd grade group? We did this. Okay, what was the other one? Do you remember? It started with a G. What did G stand for? What did G stand for? Yes, you were in my group last year. Do you remember? The different types of books, how we categorize a book. What's it called? Genre. Good. Genre. And remember, we categorize genre between two categories, fiction and nonfiction, okay? Your fiction are your fantasy, your fables, your historical fiction, realistic fiction, your mystery, right? And your nonfiction are your informational texts, biographies, and autobiographies. But remember, poetry is its own genre, okay? It doesn't fit into fiction and it doesn't fit into nonfiction. It's its own genre, its own world, okay? All right, and then the next one, which is new to y'all, because we don't talk about it that much in third, is text structure, okay? All right, so our genre, and this is pretty obvious, this is an easy one. What would our genre be for this text? And I just told you, it's in its own little world. What would the genre be, Haley?
Poetry.
Poetry, okay? So next to G, we're gonna write poetry. So if you get a question on the STAR exam, on the STAR assessment, and the question asks, what type of genre is this text? Do you have to reread it a million times? No, you just look where? At the title, right? And that's why we do these strategies, guys, to help you, okay? All right, so poetry, rhythm, rhyme, explain author's feelings and thoughts at that time, right? Or the poet's feelings and thoughts, good. Okay, what about my purpose? Why do you think a poet writes poetry? What do they want to do? What's his purpose? We go. He wants to entertain the reader, right? Good. So my author's purpose is to entertain. And again, poets write poetry because this is somebody's own thoughts and feelings at that point. This is kind of like a freeze frame of their memory, okay? So those of us that like music, right? Whether it's rap, rock, R&B, hip-hop, country, Spanish, it doesn't matter. Did you know that those lyrics are poetry? They're rappers or hip-hop artists, feelings and thoughts at that point, okay? So keep that in mind. It's to what? Entertain the reader or entertain the listener when it comes to music, okay? All right, what about author's point of view? What about author's point of view? Author's point of view. What do you think, Nathan? What is author's point of view? Well, who can tell me how many author's point of views there are? Let's figure that one out. What do you think?
First person.
First and
Third.
first and third. Good. Okay. What's the difference between first and third person? What's the difference between first and third person, Shane?
Like I, me,
The pronouns. But why would I use I in a story?
because you're trying to tell a story about yourself.
You're awesome. Yes, you're right. God bless you. You are telling a story about yourself. So if you're telling a friend or Mr. Brown or Miss Ayaga or Mr. Vogus or anybody a story about yourself, then it's first person, okay? What about third person? What about third person? Ola?
You're writing a story about someone else.
You're telling the story through someone else's perspective, right? So are you in the story? No, you're outside the story. And you've been learning this since kinder. When your kinder teachers were saying there's a narrator. Good, okay? So when there's a narrator, then the author's point of view is third person. So let's take a look at this here. It says, the winter days had gone on too long. I was missing summer song. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. Instead, I wanted sun yellow and bright. Does this sound like there's a narrator or is someone telling their personal story? What do you think?
A narrator?
You think there's a narrator? You think there's someone else talking?
It's that person because the snowflakes were no longer a delight. Instead, I wanted.
Andrea, can you help him out a little bit? Give more explanation and tell me which one you think it is.
I think they're talking about themselves because it says I.
Okay, so you see the pronoun I, and they might be talking about themselves. So they're talking about themselves. Is it first or is it third? What is it, guys? Tell me.
First.
First. Good. So my author's point of view is first. Okay? Now my text structure. And I'm going to help you out with this one because it's a little harder, okay? And we really don't focus on text structure until 4th grade anyways. So when you read a text, your teacher's probably told you, or there's other literacy skills like problem and solution, cause and effect, chronological or sequential order, right? Use of transition words, okay? Classification scheme. So there's multiple ways, even in your writing. I'm pretty sure Mr. Brown has told you you're going to write in this structure today. You might be using a narrative, like narratives, right? Okay?
Yeah.
You use sequential order, okay? But for our text structure, do we have a cause and effect here?
No.
No. Do we have is the information grouped in a way that makes sense? Like for example, if we read books about frogs, then we have South American frogs, North American frogs, and then we have Asian frogs, and they separate the information by groups. Do we have that here?
No.
No. What do we have here?
We have a
Because the mood changes, right? The mood sounds very somber, which means kind of what? Like sad in the beginning of the poem. And then as the poem transitions, the mood tends to what? Change into what? More
happy.
more excitement. So what do you see here? Like what relationship do you see going on in the story? What do you think, Hayden? Well, we're not talking about the structure here. We're talking about the actual reading. What type of structure, what kind of format do you think this author used? What type of relationship do you see here? Shane? No, not yet. We're not talking about that yet. And I understand this is hard because again, this is new to 4th. But I would classify this under a problem and solution. Okay? Because what's the problem?
That it wasn't fun in the beginning. And then
Winter's been too long, right?
Yeah, and then at the very end it got more fun.
And the solution is what? So what did they decide to do?
They decided to come out with some colorful t-shirts.
They came up with an idea to what? Have some fun, okay? All right. So now that we've actively read for a purpose, right? And now that we've identified our genre, our author's purpose, author's point of view, and our text structure, now it's time to reread and stop and jot. But with the poem, it's going to be a little different, okay? Now, let's look at the first stanza here. Let's look at the first stanza. Ophelia, can you please read it, please?
The winter days have gone too long. I was missing summer's song. The snowflakes were no longer delight, and said I want sun yellow and bright.
Okay? So what's going on? In your mind, what are you visualizing? What do you think the message of the poet is? Rita? Okay, well, how do you know that she, it's interesting you say the word summer. What do you associate with summer? What do you connect with as far as summer? What kind of language do you see here? Okay? But is this about summer?
No.
What is the author trying to tell you? Because remember, the poet tells you what they're feeling and thinking at that point, right? What are they seeing at this point, or how are they feeling? What do you think?
Sad because they're missing summer.
Exactly. Sad or sadness, right? Sadness because of winter. Okay? And we can interpret in different ways, and that's the amazing part about poetry is a reader can interpret different messages differently. Okay? Let me have let's see. Naomi, read stanza 2.
Suddenly a great idea my mother had that made me, my sister and me quite glad. She remembered a fantastic way to bring some color into our day.
So what's going on here? What's your interpretation of what's going on in stanza 2? What do you think?
That she had ideas to make the day more fun.
So we're just gonna hashtag it idea, okay? So if you get a question about where in the poem, or what stanza in the poem does the idea get introduced, you have your stop and jot there, okay? All right, stanza number 3. Hey, please read.
How can the color of the tide, simple white t-shirt in the right tone, be different out the color red like a table in the sky ahead?
Okay, so what should I hashtag it here? What's going on? What is the poet trying to tell you? This is like the meat of the poem right here.
You're trying to say it's colorful?
What's colorful?
The t-shirt.
A t-shirt, right? So in our mind, a colorful t-shirt, okay? All right, and then the last stanza, stanza 4. Shane, go ahead and read it, please.
Okay. By the time everything was dark, we all had a great deal of fun. We even had a minute with a sign. That has had been a lot of fun.
Okay, so what do I see here? What am I visualizing in my brain? What did the poet, the language that they use, what can I vision in my brain? Yes.
That he was now having fun.
Okay, so now having fun. Okay, so if you notice, these stop and jots are real what? They're quick, okay? Stop and jots are not paragraphs, okay? They are quick 3 words that tell us, that remind us what the main point of each stanza, if you're looking at poetry, or paragraph, okay? And sometimes we have very short paragraphs, and guess what? It's okay to what? To attach them. It's okay to put them together, okay? Remember, this is your assessment. So if you want to stop and jot, big paragraphs and connect all the little paragraphs together, that's fine, okay? And we're going to be practicing that throughout the year, okay? All right, so now that we're done with R, which is reread and stop and jot, now we're going to what? Tackle the questions. So let's look at the questions here. Let me have, sweetheart in the pink. Name, I'm sorry.
Isabella?
Isabella, can you please read question number 1? Just the question, not the answer choices.
What is the rhyme pattern on each stanza of the poem?
Okay. What I noticed in the years that I've taught STAR, kids, we can read. We can definitely read. The problem is we get kind of tricked on what are they asking for us to look for? What are they asking for us to do? So there's always key words in a question that we need to highlight to remind our brain, okay, I'm focused on this. This is what I need to find. So looking at what Isabella read, what is the rhyme pattern of each stanza of the poem? What's my key words here? What are they asking for me to look for? Nathan? Which lines rhyme? We're right here, sweetheart. We're right here. Alex? Looking at this question, what are my key words? What is a question asked for me to look for?
It says who for you to look for the pattern.
What pattern? You have it right in front of you. What pattern?
The rhyming pattern.
The rhyme pattern, okay? So I need to look for the rhyme pattern. Can anybody tell me what skill this is when they ask you about rhyme patterns? It's introduced in 3rd, and you probably learned A, B, B, A, that kind of stuff. It was introduced in 3rd as rhyme what? I'm giving you half the word. Rhyme what?
Rhyming word?
No. Rhyme.
Primary? Rhyme pattern.
But there's another word. There's a word that you can say it. It's known as rhyme. Who said it? There you go, rhyme scheme. Rhyming poems have to have rhythm and they have to have a rhyme scheme. All right. How do I find the rhyme scheme, Miss De La Rosa? Well, what do I look at in my, okay, so we're gonna break it down into stanzas. And we're only looking at the first stanza. We're only looking up here. How do I figure out a rhyme scheme? I have to look at what? Shane? Well, I have to look at the last, and get a highlighter, because you're gonna need a highlighter. You look at the last words of each line for that first stanza. So for example, long, song, delight, bright. Okay? Do I hear rhyming when I say long, song, delight, and bright? Yes, I do. Now, so we're gonna identify long with the letter A. Okay? So, I need to figure out which of these words rhyme with long. Because that word is also gonna be the letter what? A. So you give that word a letter, which is, we start off with A, and the other words that rhyme with it, you're also going to give them that same letter. And it's always going to start with A, okay? All right. So does song rhyme with long?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to give it an A. Does delight rhyme with long?
No.
No. So I'm going to give delight the letter B. Bright. Does bright rhyme with long in song, or does it rhyme with delight?
Delight.
So I'm going to give it what letter?
B.
B. Good. So what's my rhyme scheme?
A, B,
A, B, B. Now I have to make sure that my rhyme scheme is the same throughout the poem, because sometimes the rhyme scheme may change. So I'm going to look at stanza 2, and I'm going to highlight my ending words, and I'm going to say, okay, had and glad. Does had and glad rhyme?
Yes.
So I'm going to give this A. Does way and day rhyme?
No. Yes.
Way, day?
Yes.
So I'm going to give this B. So is my rhyme scheme the same?
Yes.
Yes, okay? So the question is asking, again, about rhyme pattern. So what is the rhyme pattern of each stanza of the poem? You have it right here, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Now let's look at our answer choices. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to answer. Sabrina, tell me what you chose.
I chose
C. The first two and the last two lines rhyme. Give me a thumbs up if you agree with her. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. So it seems like everybody agrees. Keep your thumbs up. Keep your thumbs up. Thumbs up if you agree. Thumbs down if you don't. Shane, what did you get?
I got C.
Use a thumbs up. All right, awesome. So it seems like we got 100% in here, and that is correct. Okay, awesome. So number 1 is definitely C. Okay? All right, now let's go to question 2. Question 2. Andrea, read just the question, or just the sentence.
The poet most likely uses the word summer song to make summer sound.
There you go. What's important here? What are they asking for me to look for? What do I need to do? What are my keywords to tell my brain, okay, this is what I need to focus on, this is what I need to answer? What do you think? Nathan?
Why they use the word summer song?
Okay. Uses the words summer song. What else is important? What else is important? Yes.
Summer sound?
Summer sound. So what this is asking me, okay, and this one's kind of hard. So I'm gonna help you here. This is called sensory language. Okay? How many of us in kinder, remember learning about the 5 sensory language. And these are words that poets use, okay? Poets use to trigger your senses in your brain, okay? Now, let's look at this. Let's look at what we highlighted. Uses the words summer song to make summer sound. Kind of like alliteration, but let's think about how it makes you feel. So let's go back to our poem. And summer song is in stanza what? 1. So let's read this. Let's read it all together. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
The winter days had gone on too long. I was missing summer song. The snowflakes were no longer made to light. Instead, I wanted sun yellow and bright.
And we stopped and John said sadness because of winter. All right, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. Answer this question. How do those words, summer song, what does it make summer sound like? Think of that sensory language. Summer's song, how does it make you feel by just hearing that? So in every question, ladies and gentlemen, there's always one answer that makes absolutely no sense at all. Out of those answer choices, which one do you think is the worst? The worst answer that somebody can possibly pick. What do you think? Young lady in the stripes. A. I agree with you. A is the worst answer. Okay? So A says far away. Far away. Which means what? Distance. It's far. It's not close, right? Okay? Is there another answer that we can say, not that great? I wouldn't choose this answer because this isn't going on in the poem. Ola? Well, no. There's even a worse one. And we'll talk about that. We'll get to that one later. What do you think, Sabrina? Noisy. Does it sound like there's a lot of ruckus and sound and drums beating and cars honking? And no, okay? And I'm going to tell you, this one's a tricky one. Between pleasant and warm. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Partner talk. Partner talk with each other on why you think pleasant is stronger than warm, or why warm is a better answer choice than pleasant. This side over here. Let me see. Yes. Isabella. What did you and your partner choose?
I think I was pleasant because pleasant, you get to go out and play and you can do what you want. But when it's warm, it's nice, but it's also sometimes you can get overheated.
Okay. So we have an answer choice of pleasant. What's the synonym for pleasant?
Nice.
What are synonyms? I know y'all worked on these. What's the synonym for pleasant? Well, first of all, what's the synonym? Words that what?
Same. I did the same thing.
That have similar meanings. Yes, that have the same or similar meanings. Okay? So what's a synonym for pleasant?
Nice.
Nice. Okay. What's another word? What's another synonym?
Kind.
Someone can be kind. Good. Right? Okay.
And better.
Better.
Joy.
Joy. Okay. All right. So stand up if you chose B. Stand up if you chose B. Stand up if you chose B. Okay? Alright, wanna have a seat? My C's, stand up. My warms, stand up. Okay. My warms, stand up. Miguel, why did you choose warm?
Because if you put it in, it would be I miss summer's pleasant, but with warm it'd be I miss summer's warm.
I like that strategy, but remember, poetry, gotta think. Remember, words don't usually mean what they actually mean when it comes to poetry. They use words in a different way to mean something else. Remember, it's a person's own thoughts and feelings at that point. I like that strategy, but sometimes with poetry, it may not work, okay? But someone else, I mean, y'all chose warm. Tell me, Sabrina, why did you choose warm?
I chose warm because it says sun. And sun's pretty warm.
Okay,
Pretty warm?
I like that connection. But again, in poetry, words aren't used like we traditionally, meaning every day, the way we use them. Okay, and you're going to learn about that when we start going in and diving into figurative language.
So at the beginning of the sentence, it says like, the winter days have gone on too long, so basically that person doesn't like winter anymore, and she wants summer to come back because she misses its warmth. You don't know
Okay.
if it's a she or
So, I'm going to be honest with you. The answer is
pleasant.
B.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Okay,
What?
let's talk about it. I love how it says summer, but are they really, really talking about summer here?
No.
They're talking about summer song. I want you to tell me how you feel when I read it. Okay, those of y'all that chose C, I'm gonna read it to you, and I want you just to feel. I'm gonna read it to you, and I want you to feel like what this poet is trying to tell you. Okay, or have you visualize or feel. The winter days had gone on too long. I was missing summer song. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. Instead, I wanted sun, yellow, and bright. Did that make you feel hot, or did that make you feel like very relaxed, very good? It did, right? So when you think about summer song, they put that sensory language there to make you feel what? Good. To make you feel good.
Like delight.
Okay? All right, now let's go to question number 3. Go to question number 3. Mr. Brown, can you please read question number 3?
Read this line from the poem. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. What does the word delight mean?
What's the only literary skill that deals with vocabulary, guys? And it's a 2-word. Both words start with the C. And you're learning about it right now. Or you actually already learned about it. They encompass and they incorporate synonyms, antonyms, multiple meaning words, homophones. 2 words. They start with C's. What do you see?
Context clues.
Context clues. So go ahead and write the word context clues. What's key here? What do I need to highlight in this question? What's important for me to say, okay, this is what I'm looking at. This is what the question is asking me to do. What do you think, Naomi?
Delight.
What about it? So highlight the word delight. God bless you. What do I need to do with delight? What do I need to do with the word delight? How do I know that, Naomi?
Because you could use some context.
What is the question asking me though? What's important in that question? What do I need to highlight in that question? Yes.
What does it mean?
The word delight mean. So if you see the word mean, they're asking you for what?
What does it mean?
The definition, right? Okay? All right, so let's look back in our text. It's in stanza 1. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. Instead, I wanted sun, yellow, and bright. Is there any context clues to help me figure out what delight could mean? The winter days had gone too long. I was missing summer song. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. Instead, I wanted sun, yellow, and bright. What are some clues to help me figure out what delight could mean? Haley?
No longer.
No longer what?
Delight.
Okay, so the word no longer tells me it's the opposite, right? Of delight. What do you think, Desmariah?
I think it's snowflakes were like no delight. That means that it's not that much fun anymore.
Okay, so the first line, the winter days had gone on too long, meaning what? They weren't happy about it, right? So again, another different forms of opposite of what delight means. Okay? What do you think, Shane?
Usually, if you were delighted or happy to have something, you wouldn't want to be like, instead I want something else.
Good.
You would want it.
And you know what? I like how Shane started his response because he said usually with delight, you're happy. You're not sad about things. And it's because, guys, he has prior knowledge. Remember we talked about that word prior knowledge? It's okay. Some of us might use the word delight in our vocabulary. Some of us might hear our parents and grandparents use the word delight, and we may know. But remember, we have to make sure it's connected to the what? The text. Okay? So let's look at the word delight. Let's look at the word delight. You have A, problem, B, cold, C, joy, D, fresh. Tell me, which one's the worst answer for the word delight? As far as what does it mean? What? Cold, okay, so I'm going to X out cold because that's my worst answer. Is there another answer that I'm like, ooh, this is a really bad answer? What do you think, Naomi?
Joy?
Joy? Why joy? What does joy mean?
It means like happiness.
Okay,
Delighted.
okay. Alex, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say problem.
Problem? Okay. So let's think about joy and fresh. The snowflakes were no longer a delight. No longer a delight. Instead, I wanted sun, yellow, and bright. Talk with your partner. Choose an answer between joy and fresh. What could delight possibly mean? Okay, I want you to tell me out loud. What's the correct answer?
C. Joy.
Say it again. 1, 2, 3.
C.
Awesome. Awesome sauce. Okay? All right. We're going to do one more because I have to meet with a grade level. Okay. Which one would you want to do, Mr. Brown? 4 or 5?
And?
4. Yeah, 4.
4. Okay. Literary devices. Okay. Let me have Sabrina read 4.
Read these lines from the poem.
Pay attention.
We drifted outwards from the spread, like a rainbow in the sky ahead. Which literary device does the poet use in his lines?
Okay. Literary device is a fancy word. Are you paying attention back there? Literary device is a fancy word for literary skill. Okay? Now, literary device, they're talking about figurative language, which y'all are learning right now, correct? Yes. Okay. So, in this question, I'm going to highlight the word literary device. Does the poet use? Because this is telling me, look at this example and tell me what type of figurative language did he use? And you don't have to remember all 6 and 7 of them because your answer choices only have 4 of them. Personification, hold on, sweetie, metaphor, alliteration, and simile. Not smiley, right? Simile, okay? Simile. What were you going to say?
How could you say he if you don't know if it's a boy or a
That's
girl?
true. That's true. Well, me, my sister, me. That is totally true. So maybe it, right, or them, okay? Because there's two characters in there, or 2 people. So which literary device does this poet use in these lines? Okay. What is personification? And I'm going to give you a hint. Think of the word person. Personification, keyword person.
It's not real.
What are you doing when you're using personification? Haley. You're partially right. You're halfway right.
It's something like giving a person
Not so much giving a person, but you're giving what?
an object, person,
Person characteristics. Human qualities. Good. Okay. So personification. Think of the word person in it. You are giving an object human characteristics, human qualities. For example, the stars at night were blinking. Can stars really go like that?
No.
No, they can't really blink, but you're giving what? An object, human characteristics. The leaves were dancing in the air. Can leaves get a partner and start dancing?
No.
Okay, you're giving again an object, human characteristics. You're saying what? That the leaves are what?
Not real.
They're not falling, right? They're falling or they're in the breeze. They're flying, okay? Good. B, metaphor. What's a metaphor? This one's kind of hard, metaphors. You've been looking at them since 2nd grade. Metaphors. Yes.
An exaggeration of something?
That's not a metaphor. That's actually hyperbole. Think of the word hyper in it. Hyper what? How do hyper people act? Crazy, right? Exaggerate, right? Okay, so hyperbole is an exaggeration. Is that one of our multiple choice questions? Answers? No. Okay, but that's a good try. What is metaphor?
Metaphor is saying something that is true.
No.
I know it doesn't use like or as, but
But what are you doing? There's a key word in there. It's like the one you're talking about, but you're what? You're comparing. Thank you. Metaphor, you are comparing two objects and saying how they're alike, okay? How they're similar, okay? So metaphors, for example, her hair is silk. You're comparing hair to what? Silk. Mom is soft, or mom is a teddy bear. What are you comparing mom to?
a teddy bear.
A teddy bear. Are you using the word like or as in there?
No.
No, okay? So metaphors, you're still comparing, right? You're comparing, but you're not using the words what?
Like
Or as, okay? All right, what about alliteration? What's alliteration? Sam sold shells at the seashore. Peter Peckle Peckle Pepper. Billy Bob sold burgers at the band store. Think about it. What is alliteration? What did I give you examples of?
Repeating like the sounds or false sounds.
Yes, it's the same consonant sound in words. Okay? So like I said, Sally sold shells at the seashore. Right? Okay? So what sound do you hear over and over again in that sentence?
Repeating the words again.
Not the words, the sound. So what? So when Mr. Brown tells you alliteration, tell me the sound. You're not going to tell him A. You're not going to tell him R. You're going to tell him you're going to repeat the what? The sound. The sound, right? So like Peter Peckle Peckle Pepper. What sound do you hear? Right? Okay? So that's alliteration. What about a simile? What about a simile? Simile. Shane.
Comparing two things.
Using
Like or
as.
as.
Okay. So analyze this sentence. And we're going to stop here. Analyze this sentence. We dripped and out the color spread like a rainbow in the sky ahead.
It has light.
You see what?
Light.
Light. Now the question is, does every sentence that have the word like a simile? No. You have to make sure they're what? Comparing. Are they comparing? We dripped out the color spread like a rainbow in the sky ahead. What are they comparing?
A rainbow and rainbow.
The colors to the what?
Rainbow.
The rainbows. The way the colors spread to a rainbow. So is this giving human qualities to an object? Is this comparing two objects by not using like or as? Is this the same consonant sound repeated over again?
No.
Or are they comparing two objects using like or as?
Yes. If it said light, then
Awesome.
that would be that.
Okay. Well, I want to thank y'all so much for doing our SMART strategies today. And like I said, guys, I'll be working with y'all throughout the year. And thank y'all for letting me come into your classroom and teach y'all. Fun. Okay? All right. Thank y'all.